Do you really think Eala is just another young player showing up at the US Open? Think again. Because this woman is not coming to New York to make up the numbers. She is coming with a serious warning, and the biggest names in women's tennis should be nervous. The 2025 US Open is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable tournaments in recent memory. The top seeds are dealing with injuries, grueling schedules, and a level of competition that has never been this deep. Into this chaos steps a new wave of talent from Asia. And at the very front of that wave stands a Filipina, a player who has been called a prodigy for years. But now, she is no longer just a promise. She is a legitimate threat. Her name is Eala, and the momentum she carries into Flushing Meadows is unlike anything we have seen from her before. While the top players are battling their own demons and physical issues, Eala is building something special. She is building a run. And it all started long before she set foot on the hard courts of New York. This is her rise. This is the danger she represents. And this is the story of how a young woman from the Philippines prepared to shock the world on the biggest stage in tennis. Let us take a journey back to the beginning. Because to understand the magnitude of what Eala is about to do, you have to understand where she came from. She was not discovered in some big American academy by accident. Her story starts in the Philippines, a country where tennis is not exactly the #1 sport. Basketball dominates the headlines there. Boxing has its legends. But tennis? It has always been a niche. A sport for the privileged few who could afford the courts and the coaching. Eala was not from a wealthy tennis dynasty. She came from a family that believed in her dream. A family that made sacrifices. And she rewarded that belief with an astonishing junior career. In 2022, she did something that no Filipino had ever done. She won the Wimbledon girls singles title. Then, just a few months later, she won the US Open girls singles title too. 2 Grand Slam junior trophies in one season. The tennis world sat up and took notice. They called her a prodigy. They said she was the future of Asian tennis. And for a moment, it felt like that future was arriving immediately. But the transition from junior success to professional consistency is brutal. So many junior stars fade into obscurity. They cannot handle the pace. They cannot handle the physicality. They cannot handle the mental toll of traveling week after week. And Eala learned that lesson the hard way. The years after her junior triumphs were difficult. She was pushed around by players who were stronger, faster, and more experienced. She lost matches she should have won. She doubted herself. There were moments when the dream felt far away. But here is the thing about champions. They do not stay down. They adapt. And Eala began to adapt in a very specific environment. She had been training at the Rafael Nadal Academy since she was a teenager. That academy is not just about forehands and backhands. It is a factory of discipline. It is a place where young players learn that talent is nothing without hard work. It is a place where they learn that pain is temporary, but quitting is forever. And Eala absorbed all of that. She learned to be patient. She learned to be consistent. She learned to fight for every single point like it was match point at a Grand Slam. But even with that foundation, the results did not come overnight. The year 2024 was a learning year. She was competing on the WTA Tour more regularly. She was testing herself against the best. She was taking losses. But every loss was a lesson. And in 2025, that patience finally started to pay off. The breakthrough came when she defeated a top 20 player for the first time. It was not just a win. It was a statement. It was the moment when the tennis world realized that Eala was not just a nice junior story anymore. She was a professional who could hang with the elite. That win changed everything. It gave her belief. It gave her confidence. And when you combine that confidence with the training she has received, you get a dangerous player. Her forehand has become a weapon. It is heavier, deeper, and more precise than ever before. Her one-handed backhand has always been her signature shot, but now it is sharper. She can slice it, she can drive it, and she can use it to change the direction of a rally at will. Her movement has improved dramatically. She reads the game better. She anticipates her opponent's shots before they even hit them. She is not just reacting. She is dictating, and her mental strength, honed at the Nadal Academy, is now her superpower. She stays calm under pressure. She does not get rattled by bad calls or unfavorable moments. She just keeps playing her game, point after point, until her opponent cracks. That is a terrifying combination for anyone on the other side of the net. And she showcased exactly how terrifying it can be at the Washington Open. The Washington Open was supposed to be just another stop on the hard court swing. A chance to get some matches in before the final Grand Slam of the year. But for Eala, it became something much more significant. It became the stage where she announced herself as a legitimate contender for the biggest prize in tennis. The tournament started quietly enough. She handled her early rounds with the kind of professional efficiency that has become her trademark. No flashy celebrations. No dramatic escapes. Just clean, decisive tennis. She was taking care of business, building rhythm, and gaining confidence with every match she played. But the real test came in the later rounds. That is where the tournament elevated from a tune-up to a statement. In the quarterfinals, she faced a player ranked inside the top 30. A veteran who had been on tour for years. Someone who had played on the biggest courts against the biggest names. On paper, this was her toughest test of the week. But Eala did not just win that match. She dismantled her opponent. She moved her around the court like a puppeteer controlling a marionette. She hit her one-handed backhand with precision and power that left her opponent shaking her head in disbelief. Match 1. Semifinals secured, but Eala was not satisfied yet. The semifinal was where the real drama unfolded, and where the tennis world truly took notice of what this Filipina was building. She dropped the first set in a tiebreak. It was the kind of set that could have broken a lesser player's spirit. The opponent was playing aggressively, taking risks, and hitting lines. The crowd was getting behind the underdog narrative. But Eala just reset. She adjusted her positioning. She started reading her opponent's serve more effectively. She began to dictate the rallies earlier, not allowing her opponent to set up her big shots. The second set was a masterclass in tactical adjustment and mental fortitude. She won it with relative comfort, breaking her opponent twice. The third set became a war of attrition. Both players were tired. Both players were feeling the pressure of a tournament that could change their careers. But Eala was the one who stayed composed. She was the one who kept her focus locked on the present moment, point after point after point. The comeback was complete. She raised her arms in triumph as the crowd roared. But even then, with the semi-final victory under her belt, and the finals still to come, there was something bigger happening. There was a sense that this run was not just about Washington. It was about something much larger. It was about building momentum for New York. The final itself did not go her way. She lost in straight sets to a player who was simply too hot on that particular day. Some would see that as a failure. Some would label it a missed opportunity. But for anyone who truly understands the game, that loss was not a step backward. It was another lesson. She walked off that court in Washington not as a defeated player, but as a student who had just finished another chapter of her education. She absorbed what went wrong. She noted where her serve let her down in crucial moments. She saw where her opponent's aggressive returning put her on the back foot, and she immediately went back to work to correct those issues. That is what separates the good from the great. That is what separates a nice story from a real title contender. And that is why Washington was the perfect launching pad for what is about to happen at the US Open. When you look at the history of the WTA Tour, you see these patterns repeating themselves. Emma Raducanu came from nowhere to win the US Open in 2021. She was not seeded. She was barely known to casual fans. But she played with freedom and fearlessness, and she rode that wave all the way to the trophy. Coco Gauff lost her first Grand Slam final before she won her first Grand Slam title. She used that pain as fuel. She learned from that experience and became a champion. Eala is following that same path. She is not stepping onto the court at Flushing Meadows, hoping to make a few good memories. She has the technical base, the physical conditioning, and, most importantly, the growing mental belief that she belongs among the best players in the world. The Washington Open gave her proof of that belief. Now, let us talk about her game in detail, because this is where the real warning lies for her potential opponents. Her one-handed backhand is an anomaly on the modern tour. It is a shot that most coaches try to eliminate in young players. They push for the safer, more reliable two-hander. But Eala has made her one-hander her greatest weapon. It is versatile. She can hit it flat for winners down the line. She can loop it deep and heavy to push her opponent back. And she can slice it to change the rhythm and break up rallies. When she is locked in, that backhand is a nightmare for anyone across the net. It creates angles that most players simply cannot defend against. It opens up the court and allows her to dictate the points on her terms. Her serve has improved dramatically over the past year as well. The second serve, which used to be a weakness that opponents could attack, is now a weapon in its own right. She has added more spin, more variety, and more placement. She is hitting her spots with consistency, making it difficult for returners to tee off on her second delivery. She is not a serve bot by any means, but she no longer gives away free points. Every serve she hits now serves a purpose. It sets up the point the way she wants to play it. That kind of tactical serving is essential on the fast, hard courts of New York. Her movement and court positioning are where she excels. She has an incredible ability to read an opponent's body language and anticipate where the ball is going. She does not chase balls frantically. Instead, she glides into position with minimal steps, always having the time to set up her shots properly. This efficiency of movement allows her to conserve energy, which is crucial in best-of-3 set matches that can stretch beyond 2 hours. And when she is forced wide, she can hit incredible defensive shots that turn defense into offense almost instantly. Her opponent hits a great shot into the corner. Eala slides, stretches, and somehow whips a cross-court winner back. That kind of point construction breaks opponents mentally. They start to feel like they can never hit a winner past her. And in their frustration, they start taking unnecessary risks, which only opens the door for Eala to dominate even more. Of course, no player is without weaknesses, and Eala is still developing in a few areas. Her physical endurance has improved significantly since her junior days, but the longer the match goes, the more her opponent can push her around. She still needs to build a little more strength to handle the relentless power of the very top players in the world. And there are moments when a high, deep ball to her backhand can cause trouble, especially when she is pushed deep behind the baseline. But here is the key. The coaching staff at the Nadal Academy has been working on these specific weaknesses for months. She has been putting on lean muscle. She has been working on her footwork to handle those high balls. And she has been building her stamina through grueling conditioning sessions. The holes that existed in her game 6 months ago are largely filled now. She has evolved into a more complete player, and that evolution could not have come at a better time. Now let's talk about the road ahead. Because momentum is one thing, but the draw at the US Open is an entirely different beast. Right now, based on her ranking and her recent surge, Eala is projected to be seeded somewhere in the 23 to 30 range at Flushing Meadows. And that changes everything about how her tournament is going to unfold. She will not face a top seed in the first round. She will get a manageable draw early on. But the second week is where things get interesting. That is when the real challenges begin, and that is when her mettle will be truly tested. Let's project her path. In the early rounds, she will likely face a mix of qualified players, lower-ranked opponents, and maybe a dangerous unseeded floater. These are matches she should win. But as we have seen time and time again at Grand Slams, the early rounds are where upsets happen to the favorites. A player who is not fully focused can get caught napping by a hungry qualifier. Eala will not make that mistake. She has too much at stake. She is playing with a level of intensity that suggests she understands the opportunity in front of her. She knows a deep run here can completely transform her career. So expect her to be professional and ruthless in those opening matches. The real statement will come in the 4th round. That is where she could potentially face Iga Swiatek. Now, let's talk about that matchup. Swiatek is the dominant force in women's tennis. She has multiple Grand Slam titles. She is a former world #1. She is a machine on clay, but she is also exceptional on hard courts. She won the US Open just a few years ago. On paper, this looks like a mismatch. But tennis is not played on paper. It is played on the court with physical effort and mental fortitude. And there are several reasons to believe that Eala could make this match extremely uncomfortable for Swiatek. First, Eala's one-handed backhand with its heavy slice and flat penetration can disrupt Swiatek's rhythm. Swiatek likes to dictate with her heavy forehand, hitting deep and moving her opponent side to side. But Eala's backhand slice can keep the ball low, forcing Swiatek to hit up on the ball, which neutralizes some of her power. And when Eala decides to flatten out her backhand, she can hit winners past even the best movers in the game. Second, Eala is not afraid of big stage moments. She has played in Grand Slam finals at the junior level. She has trained in pressure cooker environments at the Nadal Academy. And she just proved at Washington that she can win against tough opponents in front of loud crowds. The bright lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium will not intimidate her. They will inspire her. There is also the intangible factor. Swiatek is dealing with a shoulder issue. It has been nagging her all summer. And while she insists she is fine, these types of injuries can flare up at the worst possible moment. If she is not serving at 100%, Eala can put pressure on her service games. And if the match goes to a third set, all bets are off. Eala's superior conditioning and her ability to stay composed under pressure could be the difference. Do not be surprised if this 4th round clash is the match of the tournament. Do not be surprised if Eala causes the shock of the year by walking off that court a winner. Beyond Swiatek, the draw is filled with players who are all vulnerable right now. Look at the top of the rankings. Aryna Sabalenka has been struggling with consistency. She can beat anyone on her best day, but she can also lose to anyone on her worst. Her big serving and aggressive baseline game are dangerous, but her decision-making under pressure often lets her down. And there is a sense that the wind has gone out of her sails this season. She seems mentally exhausted. Then you have the rest of the top 10. Jess Pegula has been dealing with injuries. Elena Rybakina is always a threat, but struggles with illness and inconsistency. Coco Gauff is improving, but still has flaws in her forehand that the top players can exploit. There is no dominant, unbeatable force this year. The US Open title is truly up for grabs, and you can bet Eala believes she can grab it. This is also the year of the young wave. Mira Andreeva is just a teenager, and she is already ranked inside the top 20. Linda Noskova has proven she can beat the best on her day. Diana Schneider is dangerous on hard courts. These young players are all coming through at the same time, and they are creating an environment where the old guard can no longer just show up and expect to win. Eala is a key part of this wave, but she has something that separates her from the rest of the group. She has patience. She is not reckless. She does not go for low percentage winners on every single shot. She constructs points methodically. She is willing to hit 20 shots in a rally if that is what it takes. That is a skill that many young players lack. They get bored, they get frustrated, and they start going for winners too early. Eala is different. She plays like a veteran. That is a huge advantage at a Grand Slam. There is also an emotional factor that cannot be ignored. Alex Eala is the first Filipina player in history to be seated at a Grand Slam. She is carrying the hopes of an entire nation of over 100 million people. That is a heavy burden. But she does not see it as a burden. She sees it as fuel. She has spoken openly about how proud she is to represent the Philippines and how she wants to inspire the next generation of young players from her country. She wants to show them that it is possible to go from the streets of Manila to the big stages of New York. That kind of motivation can push a player through the most difficult moments of a match. When her legs are tired and her opponent is hammering the ball, she will think of all the people watching back home. She will think of the children who will be inspired by her story, and she will dig deeper. That is something you simply cannot quantify with stats. And let's be honest, New York is the perfect place for a story like this. The US Open crowd loves an underdog. They love a player who comes from nowhere and starts beating the favorites. They love a player with heart, with fight, with charisma. Alex Eala has all of those qualities. The moment she steps onto one of the show courts and the announcers say her name, the crowd will know something special might be about to happen. She will have the home crowd advantage in a way that even the American players sometimes do not have. These fans will push her forward when she is down. They will bring her back into matches when she looks finished. They will make the stadium feel like a cauldron of energy that her opponents will find unbearable. So, what is the final prediction for this tournament? When you look at the current state of the WTA, when you look at Eala's technical abilities, when you look at her newfound physical strength, and when you look at the incredible momentum from her run at Washington, there is a compelling case to be made that a deep run is not just possible. It is probable. A quarterfinal finish is a very realistic goal. She has the game to beat almost anyone in the draw on a hard court. She has the mindset that separates champions from pretenders. And she has the momentum that can carry her through the toughest moments. But could she go even further? Could she actually win the whole thing? That might be asking a lot for a player who has never been past the third round of a Grand Slam main draw. But stranger things have happened. Raducanu won as a qualifier. Emma did it without dropping a set. Tennis is a game of confidence. And right now, Alex Eala has confidence in abundance. This is a warning to the rest of the tour. You have been put on notice. There is a new threat in town. Her name is Alex Eala, and she is coming to New York with serious momentum, with a serious game, and with a serious desire to make history for her country. The top seeds, the defending champions, the Grand Slam winners, they should all be looking over their shoulders. Because when the draw is released and the tournament begins, there will be one player who is not just happy to be there. There will be one player who believes, with every fiber of her being, that she belongs in the finals. That player is Alex Eala. The Philippines has produced many great athletes, but it has never produced a women's tennis player like this. Alex Eala is not just a player to watch at the 2025 US Open. She is a player who could define the entire tournament. She is a player who could write one of the greatest stories in the history of Filipino sports. And she is a player who might just make New York her home away from home by the time this 2-week carnival of tennis is through. So tune in early. Do not miss the first round match, because the journey starts there. And you do not want to say you missed the moment when the whole world finally realized what the Philippines already knew. Eala is a star in the making. She is a threat to the established order. She is the future of women's tennis. And she is coming to Flushing Meadows to prove it all. Get ready, New York. She is here. And she is not planning on leaving quietly.